Hey guys, isn't it true that sometimes when you're programming, the simplest things give you the most trouble? Well, this was what happened to me. And so I ended up spending too much time on this. And I figured, well, what I'll do is I'll make a tutorial and I'll put the code on the website. Basically, this is what it is. I want to be able to turn an image to the right or to the left or flip it over. Easy peasy, right? Well, uh, some of the different issues I had is it would turn it to the right, to the left, but wouldn't show it in the browser. The other thing I wanted is I wanted to save it as the same name. So I wanted the image flash.jpg. Whenever it's flipped, I still want it to be named flash.jpg in the same directory in the same folder because I want to use the users to be able to come on there, switch to the right or the left, and then they could have that orientation. So basically, this is what you'll be learning. Here I have a select. If I want to turn this image to the right, I just hit turn right, and you'll notice it takes the image and turns to the right. If I want to turn it to the left, I just select turn to the left, and it turns the images back to the left. If I wanted to flip it over, I just select flip it over, and notice it shows it in the browser too. So let's just flip this one more time, and it looks really easy, but there's a little bit more more things involved here, as there always is in programming, right? So let me bring up my Notepad++. Yes, I know I should be using Visual Studio. But anyway, here's my form down here, and I'm using Bootstrap to take care of the layout and everything like that. So here's the form method. The select name is rotate, and this on change, I just have it so whenever they select the to the right, to the left, that it just submits the form and changes it. And ironically, whenever you're turning it to the right, you have to have negative 90 degrees. And when you're turning it to the left, you have to have 90 degrees. Don't know why, that's just the way it is. I'm using Image Magic and the GD image library to do this. Here, if you just want to flip, of course, it's 180. So that explains the selections. Now let's go to the top here. I'm including my header and my error PHP. But this right here is a random number, and I'm going to tell you what that's for in just a minute here. The file that I'm using is this upload test flash.png, or I can use this JPEG file to experiment with JPEG. I'm only using those two different file formats in the program, so I really don't care about bitmap or anything else. So file 1 is the name of the file. And right here, I'm setting a new variable of file new name. Remember when I told you that I wanted to change the name back to the original name, because during this process, it changes the names for you and flips it. And I couldn't figure out how to keep the same name. So this is what I ended up doing. I take this, and if you have a suggestion, please leave it in the comments below. So basically, I'm checking to see if it's a JPEG. If it's a JPEG, then I'm just going to go ahead and execute this code. Or if it's not a JPEG, if it's a PNG, I'm going to execute this code. If it's a JPEG, I'm going to execute this code. So here, basically, I go get the file name, new file, and here I have another random number generator. I'm just generating the new file with a random number because I'm changing it back to the old file name at the end of this. And I put that in our variable of new file name. And here we take this file 1, which is located up here, and then I use imagerotate from PNG. I store that in a variable called source. And this little ROT, that's for rotate, that's my post variable. And imagerotate, I take from the source, which is right here, and then I apply a rotation to it. Next thing I do is I take the image JPEG function, the new file name, and I rotate. Okay, so that's the end of the rotation. And then to free up the image, to free up the memory on the system, you always want to use this image destroy and whatever the source is, and that's for PNG, JPEG, and anything else. Next, if it's a JPEG, I do the exact same things, but these are all JPEG functions. Now, right down here, what I want to do is rename the file back to the original. And that's what I do here. So I use the rename function. I take the new file name and I save it as the old file name. And then I just echo out if the name can be, if it can be renamed or not. And that just is, if it's protected in a protected file, it'll let you know that it can't be renamed. So now the random number that I'm using, that I'm generating up here, the 1 to 1000, the reason why I use that is I want to see the new image flipped. And so what I'll do is I take the image source, which is file 1, and I put a parameter on it that's randomly generated. I set the image to a width of 400 so I could see it in the browser. So by using this question mark P equals and then random generation, it's a new URL every time so that you can see the fresh rotation. Otherwise, if you don't have that, it's going to, especially if you have it like, in your htaccess file where you're caching all the images for a long time, or you're using Cloudflare and you don't see the new image, it's just going to be that way every time. It's so frustrating. Anyway, I'm going to put this code. You could click the link in the description below and just go grab it. You could play around with it. The only prerequisite, you want to change your directory and your file name to match whatever you're using. And so I'm just going to go ahead and implement this into a home inventory app so people can rotate their images. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video tutorial.